Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for another Watercolour Wednesday. I'm in slightly experimental mode at the moment, and yeah, I'm here to have a play with some things that I know very well, salt and watercolours and how they intertwine, and then some other ingredients that I also know very well but have never really incorporated them in this process, particularly thinking about the PaperArtsy Infusions. So these are pigment powders. Any pigment powders can play the role. These are the ones I happen to have, and I love them because they have a real grunginess to them. So every infusion's colour, so for instance Rusty Car, has multiple pigments within it, including always some walnut crystals, so you get that dark grungy element. And I'm really going to have a play. I need some more salty watercolour backgrounds because I've used up most of mine, so that's sort of one task. I've also got around, but this may be a whole other episode, my distress re-inkers, because they are also a form of watercolour, as are the infusions, obviously. And there are also some Ecoline inks hanging around the corner. So we're gonna be messing around, really, I think, over the next few episodes of Watercolour Wednesdays. There will be some tag times in between, I'm sure, because there are some tags I want to get back to. But for starters, I'm just going to go for one of the basics. I've got my melamine tray here that has got various American Journey paints on it. I'll list what's here in the ingredients down below. But these are, well, one of them's June Bug, and the other one is, I can't remember. And I'm just going to get onto the paper with a nice watery whoosh of paint. You'll need to have somewhere nearby where you can pop these things down to dry, because it's going to be many backgrounds in a not in a hurry, but you need to move fast with this anyway, because you need to get your salt on while that surface is wet. So I've got some fine grained salt, I've got some sort of chunky rock salt. I'm just going to get that onto that surface and set that aside to dry. I haven't set up my setting aside to dry, so I'm going to run and do that now. When I'm setting things aside to dry, I have some large canvases, art canvases, bought very cheaply, cheapy shop, nothing extravagant, that haven't had their plastic wrappers taken off yet. So I just lie the canvas down, and the plastic wrapper is perfect for holding these cards while they dry. So I've got, as you can see, shades of the gorgeous beachy coastal blues that these American Journeys give me. I bought them when I was theatre working in the States one time, and I love them. But sadly, I'm not really going to be able to access those anymore because I'm not going to be in the States. And I don't think there's any international shipping on the American Journey paints. Let's do a slightly larger one. And now I'm going to start taking a couple of risks. So I'm going to get some of this watercolour paint on here. If you want the paint to move more easily on the paper, you can put a spritz of water on the paper before you even start. Let's get some of that going. And then I think what I'm going to do is get a little bit grey or coastally at this end, like so. Oh, in a minute I'm going to need to get the Daniel Smiths out, because I do want, I think, some burnt sienna going on in these as well. Burnt sienna light has got an amazing rusty quality to it, and it's rustiness that I'm thinking about. So I think a little bit of salt on this one. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to tap out a little bit of the Rusty Car Infusions. Do not take the lid off your infusions. I make a hole in my lid, and that's how I apply it. What I don't want is a whole bottle full of powder sprinkling out on the desk. Now, what should happen with this, as it hits a wet surface, is it will already start to play. And if I want to increase that play time and that fluidity, then I need to wet that surface a little more. So I can give a little spritz of water and just let those rusty particles do their thing. So I've now got little rust patches on my watercolour background. I'm going to give the back of the paper a little spritz because that will help it stop curling up. See, that's straightening out now that the back of the paper is also moist. Your ally in this game is going to be a piece of kitchen roll, so if you don't want it heading off the side like that, but actually it's quite nice. You see what I mean about multiple colours within these Infusions powders? That pink particle is part of the Infusions powder. I'm going to put on a little bit of the Just Walnut, which does exactly what it says on the tin. It is just the walnut particles, and I just want a little bit of that dark. Ooh, that's a lot of Infusions powder. So what I might do is just help it to spread out like so. And I can even get a little brush in there if I want to just move that around a little bit. And then give it a little spatter. Always with the spatter, you know me. Good, that's looking quite interesting to me. I'll zoom in a little bit for the next one so that you can see that glorious explosion that happens when the Infusions hit the wet watercolour paint. Having zoomed in, you won't be able to see this. So this is the burnt sienna light here. I do also love the Aussie red gold, might well come into play, and also the burnt umber next to it. They're all good rusty glowing colours. So sometimes when the brush is going off in this direction, that's where it's going. That's kind of all you need to know. I'm going to move over to this bigger brush. I'm going to go with some greys. As you know, I do love my greys. So you can see if I go on with a dry brush, I get one kind of effect. If I make sure it's nice and wet, then I get the flow. And if I want my salt to work, then I need a good amount of fluid in the mix. Let's take some of this burnt umber and burnt sienna light kind of on that brush together there, because I think that's going to be quite a nice base from which to leap off into a little bit more of that lovely rusty car. So this time I might go Infusions first and then salt, just to mix it up, because this is playtime. This is experimentation. So again, you can see that there'll be a certain amount of spreading out, and if I leave that, it will continue to spread out while there's moisture for it to spread into. But I want a bit more excitement, so I'm just going to give that Infusion something else to run into, and then I'm going to add a bit of salt, which should impact with the Infusions as well. It's also going to grab pigment from the pigment powders. That's nice. I'm going to give the back of this a little spritz again to help it straighten. If, again, you don't want those sort of side rustinesses, you can just give them a dab with the paper towel. But actually it's quite good because things do rust at the edges, don't they? This doesn't have to be a rusty technique. Obviously, I'm still slightly in rusty mode just because I enjoy it. But you could absolutely be doing this with your pink, your purple, your yellow, your green Infusions, whatever colours are going to make you happy. Those are the colours to play with. Don't feel this has to be a rusty technique. In fact, let's give ourselves a different kind of option. So this is that gorgeous, I need to check what that is. There's Junebug. See if my brain can recall. What else have I got here? I've got my very favourite slate blue or slight blue. It's got blues and greys in, so I'm going to tap a little bit of this onto here. And if I get some of that grey pigment, that's going to create one kind of effect. I might give that another spritz. Again, just to give that some extra water particles. And you see the water itself creates texture, which is magic. Maybe a little bit of salt. Just again to encourage those delicious variations in the watercolour texture. Little spritz on the back. Yes, I could spritz on the back before I do it, but that wouldn't be me, would it? Remembering to do that in advance. Look at how that's spreading out. And again, the various coloured particles in that slight blue as it dries are going to be magic. Good. Pop you to one side. Let's have, I'm going to leave these. Oh, that's water over. Back in a sec. Right, as I was saying before I so foolishly knocked over my jar of water, I've shifted where they are now back to their usual place. This is where they usually are. They shouldn't have been here at all. That's why it happened. I'm not used to water being in that position. I'm going to leave this here because I can use it to put on a nice pale background to start with. Might as well use up the paint we've got, and then when I drop some more colour into it, That'll create more delight. Might go with another bit of slight blue, I think, like so, just dripping it in. And the other thing I can do is I can mix up that as a paint itself. So just add water to your infusions, and then you can create that as a watercolour wash on your paper. In fact, yeah, you can see that sort of took my eye as I did it. I'm going to put some Rusty Car Infusions into there, just a little bit. There it is. And I'm going to put some salt on that. So as I say, that should work in exactly the same way as it does over watercolour. Grab some of that pigment and create lovely crystalline textures. I'm going to flick a little bit of water at that Infusions just to give it a chance to spread out. And I might put another little bit of that down in this corner. If you want a bit more control over how much powder you're putting on, then you can put it on the mat first and then kind of sprinkle it on, like seasoning your food with salt. There we are. Going to let that do its thing. That's going to be a really cool grungy one, isn't it? Grand. What else would we like? Let's pick some of this up, because there's lots of scrumptious stuff going on there. That's already a background, look at that. But what I will do is create something a bit grey and add in a bit more of the blue. Look at that slate blue spreading out. I'm almost sad to cover that up, but I know we're playing, and this is where I'm going next. So let's pop a bit of the rock salt down. Those larger crystals just give you a slightly different texture. A little bit of that salt. Slate blue or Rusty Car? I think I'll have a bit more of the slate blue. No reason I can't have both, of course. So let's put a bit through there and a bit through there. So that's a bit of each. And I might give that just a little spritz of water. Again, just to activate that Infusions. Watch that little explosion as it gets the water to move into. So in the same way as watercolour, it's water plus pigment that creates movement, flow, interest, detail. Enjoying that one quite a lot. It's still very much greys and blues and rusty browns for me at the moment, even though there are crocuses poking their heads up. There are in the long run some narcissus on the way. So with that water spill, the other thing I thought I would mention is it principally went on the little piles of paper that I had lined up ready to go here, and that's fine. Once that dries out, that will be usable again, so that's fine. Also, you can just use it moist and your paint will just go on in a different kind of way. That's quite nice. I like that. There's a sort of sense of the earth, the spaces underneath the earth. Let's put maybe a little bit of just walnut into there. If I can hit those wet patches, it will go whooshing around. A bit of salt right into there. Yeah, I think that might be enough for that one. Little spritz on the back so it doesn't curl up too much. Grand. Let's have another large one and go with whatever's on the brush. I've dipped it into the water, but we'll see. Now I'm going to pick up some more of these greys. I'm passionately attached to these greys at the moment. And let's just mix in some blue. So you can see I'm not trying for a perfect flat wash in any way, shape or form. I'm creating texture here. I want the paint on the move. I want that sense of messiness and grunginess and so on and so forth. Let's have a bit of slate blue on that one. Where have I put it? So just tapping down into those spaces. And again, it's playing. I really am. I want some backgrounds. I wanted to explore a bit with these infusions. And again, I'm going to give it a little spritz of water because that gives me texture as well. Oh, that's going to spread out beautifully. A little spritz on the back so it doesn't end up going too much down to the sides. It is just magic. Can you see that paper moving, flattening itself out? Just because I've put some moisture on the other side, and so the weave of the paper fibres can just smooth itself out. Some more of the brown with maybe some blue, I think. Let's pick up some of you. Get you out for a spin. Gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. And let's put some of that blue here. We'll get kind of bronzy tones as that blue mixes with the brown, bronzy greens. Gorgeous. A little bit of rusty car I feel on that one, because it's giving me rusty vibes already. Just going to tap that in, let that get on with what it wants to get on with. And I might just, yeah, encourage those rusty areas with some salty crystalline textures. Little spritz on the back. Goodo. Gonna need some more just walnut in a minute for some real dark depths. Dark depths. Let's maybe have, I've now got that on the palette, that kind of bronzy colour. So let's use it. Oh, it's like deep ocean or forest. Yeah, it's really cool. Let's see how it works with some grey. Is that not magic? Yeah, and onto that I think we'll have, as I said, some just walnut, but first I want a bit of rusty car in the mix. Rusty patches, I'm going to deepen them with some just walnut. So you can hear I'm tapping, trying not to have too much. Let's spritz with a bit of water before we go salt this time. The texture that gives you, just the water on the paint, is enough for a whole episode, isn't it? Let's get some decay going there. That's very cool. So I'm focusing the salt around those infusions just to help with that sense of rustiness and decay. Loving that against the background colour. Just magic. Let's maybe, yeah, a brown and a grey. I might give this a little wipe up. I could of course do a mop up tag, but I want to move on to the next piece of paper. Let's see. Let's just put that down because it's there on the brush and it's beautiful. Don't want to rinse it away. And then what I might do is bring in the rustiness from the other end. Let that meld in the middle. And let's put some slate blue over that. Just sort of mixing and matching now. Let's get that grey blue on the go. That's nice. Maybe a little spritz of water to help it along in places. I don't want all of it activated. Little spritz on the back. I mean, I like these runs and these dribbles as it goes. Look at that. You can see the blue, the grey. Just really magic in there. But I do want a bit more rusty action. So I'm going to go in with the rusty car and let that light things up in its own particular way. Ooh, that was a good splat. Watch that. I mean, it's fun. And we need a bit of fun, don't we? Need a little bit of playtime in the face of lots of what's going on. What I might also do on this one, I think, is get myself a little bit of this burnt sienna light on here and tap some of that in as rusty speckles. It needs a little bit more fluidity to fly off the brush. This is not my spatter brush, it's just a regular watercolour brush, so it's not giving me the same spatter action I'm used to. There we go. And if I wait a little bit, then I can put on those rusty spatters and they'll stay put. Those, because the paper is wet, are going to keep moving and activating. But what I could do is these two we did at the beginning that didn't get any rusty action. Going to mix in some slate blue, I think, into that burnt sienna light to get me something a bit juicier and darker. And that I'm going to spatter on to this as yet unrusted one that we did right at the beginning. Because otherwise it's feeling left out. It needs some rusty car, doesn't it? Don't you think? Aren't you feeling the need for some rusty car? So that end will have a brighter look. There we go. That's what I want. more liquid. That should do it. There we go, that's nice. Yeah, I like those spatters. I might put in some pure rusty car as well. So again, powder on the mat, mix it up as paint. Fiery. And that'll just do what it does as it continues to dry. But that's a good little extra thing going on those blue ones that we started with. We might be almost there for today, I think. That might be today's experiments pretty much done. Well, I've got 2 more large pieces of paper that didn't get wet. so let's use them up. Let's use what's here because we've just mixed it. Might as well use it. Very nice. Look at that pink streak. That's the rusty car in action, giving us that magic moment where a completely unexpected particle joins in. This one, I might put the salt on first again. We haven't done that for quite a while. Put some salt. Put maybe a little bit of just walnut for some darks. See how subtly I can get it on. And maybe a little bit of rusty car right over that central place. Just over the dividing line between the 2 colours. And maybe into that corner. There we go. That's nice. Again, I might just go an overall spritz. Good, and then I'm going to let that do what it does. Again, a little spritz on the back. Help it straighten out. Oh, it's fun. And yeah, obviously I'm going to need to let these dry and clear up. Check there's no water got under the mat. Clear up before I can come and show and share where we've got to with that. I think I need one last blue and grey one because I do love my blues and my greys. So that's a little bit of the, maybe Junebug. I think it's Junebug. And then pick up these greys. That's French grey and another grey. As I say, I'll list the colours I've got of the American Journeys. And if you're lucky enough to be in America and able to get hold of them, you'll just need to go and look at their colour charts to work out which ones are on here. But you can see the palette is all mixed up in any case. Let's go with, can't decide. Maybe slate blue. Maybe we'll go slate blue on this one. A little bit of powder. Nice. A little bit of water to help it along. Maybe dip in. There you go, look, drop the water right on it, see what that does. Need to do the spritz on the back now because it's starting to, as I say, I don't mind it running to the sides because I quite like borders, as you know. A little bit of rust, do we think? Maybe what I'll do is a rusty spatter in a minute. What I will do is get some salt on the go while the paint is still wet. No good putting salt on after the paper is dry, it won't do a thing. Okay, let's put a bit of concentration of salt down there and see what that'll do. Gonna let that just rest a little bit and then maybe come in with a bit of spattery burnt sienna light. There we go, like so. And again, I'm going to try and focus that around these rusted areas. It's not quite dark enough for me as a look, so I'm going to mix in quite a lot of just walnut. But that randomness is good. That being less in control of what's happening is what I'm after today. I don't want to be the one making decisions. I want to let the mediums do what they want to do and just see what that gives me. So these are going to need quite a bit of drying time because the paper is quite wet. But then I'll be back to show you what's what. Well, now I can honestly hardly breathe for the beauty and drama of some of these. They are fabulous. I've taken the salt off almost all of them, and it's that usual magical thing where you can't believe the salt's gone because it looks as though there are still salt particles there. But look at those interactions with some of those infusions. I've got one last salty one to do because I thought it was only fair to show you. I generally do a first little tip, and you can see I'm catching the salt because we might just try something with that. I find a stiff bristle toothbrush is one of my best bets for getting the stuff off. Here's some ASMR if you're, yeah, that's a good noise for some and a terrible noise for others. So turn your volume down if you can't stand it. This one is. See what I mean? I'm rarely speechless, as regulars will know. But this is, yeah, and then you need to get your fingertips in there again to just feel where it's still holding. Interestingly, the salt does cling more amongst the infusions powders. It's much easier to get it off. And I'm wondering if that's because there is some kind of stabiliser in the infusions. A couple of people asked me after the last infusions video, the infusions berry stamping. I'll link below if anybody's missed that one. For how to use, another way to use infusions, because they do seem to want to stay put where they are. So yeah, a couple of people asked, is there a fixative built into the infusions? And I sort of merrily said no, but I'm now starting to wonder. So I will do some research and ask PaperArtsy, and yeah, I'll leave that answer below the video in the description if I find conclusive evidence. But you can see I'm pulling all that colour off, not pulling the colour off, pulling all that salt off, and not pulling the colour off was what I was aiming to say. But there is in those infusions also a distinct sheen which is just like perfect rust. Can you see that there as the light catches it? Just magic. So with this, I thought what I might try to do is just catch some of that pigment back. This may or may not work. It depends how strong the pigment is in the salt. So what I'm going to do is grab, there must be some, yeah, bits of watercolour card here. Actually, let's use this one. Pop that down. I'm going to give it a spritz of water to start with. Let's put these safely out of the way because I don't want anything happening to them. There's probably a little bit of salt left in between the layers there. Let's tap it off. There we go. So with this, let's just sprinkle, spray a little bit of water onto there, and then I'm just going to tip these salt crystals. You may have to come back another day to see to see the results of this. I'll share it when we do some more experimenting, because as I say, I'm in oh yes, there's definitely something happening. Let me zoom in for you. So I think you can see that those infusions particles are making their way back out onto the paper. So I'm trying to hit where I can see water shimmering on the paper so that I know I'm going to get a good take. But I can, of course, also, there may be some pure particles here, of course. It may not be all salt. It may be some loose, extraneous bits of pigment powder that's also coming, which is why we're getting this. So I am going to give that just an extra little spritz to play with. Yeah, and that will definitely be something you get to see in a future episode. I'll leave it to dry somewhere. So here we are, as I say, just drama galore in these. It's and what's great is, if there's a particular favourite, which there is, a couple of particular favourites, I can come back and watch the video again and see exactly what order I put things down in. Not that you'll ever, look at the rust on that. Not that you'll ever get exactly the same thing again. That's one of the joys of the infusions, is that with the multiple powder colours in there, you're always going to get something slightly different. But you know, you can aim for the same. I'm going to keep that one to the end because that's a favourite, and that's a favourite. I mean, this is another favourite. So this is the one we sprinkled a bit of infusions, diluted infusions onto after we had made it. Those are really cool with the browns and the greys. I love those. Just scrumptious. There's another little bit of glorious rusty decay. Simply in love with that combination. I reckon there's rusty car and walnut stain. I reckon that's what that is. Yeah, this paler orange is interesting. That's the burnt sienna light in a fairly pure form. I'm aware I must usually mix it up with something else because it's a bit too orange for me, but I suppose in rusty terms that's pretty good, and it's really good in contrast with the blue, isn't it? I mean, that's cracking. Here's another delight. Yeah. Ooh, that's another one we sprinkled some stuff on afterwards, and I was a bit worried as it went on that it was just too dark, but as you can see, it has got lovely rustiness to it. Oh, scrumptious. Just, I mean, really, what a joy that is. That's a favourite for sure. It just didn't make it to the bottom of the pile. That's good. Also delicious. Very nice. I like it. That's a goodie. The grey and the brown is still capturing my adoration. I think this one less keen, interesting because it's got lots of slate blue in, which has always been my favourite, but there's something about it in combination with the orange which is not quite doing it for me, although I do love the drama of those explosive bits of colour. This is fantastic. That just looks like real rust, doesn't it? Those thick patches that you get, and then the spreading out of the brighter orange. Utterly gorgeous. And I do like this dark brown patch as well. It's not rusty, but I can add some more rusty car over the top of that and get myself some rustiness. And this one is the one you saw me taking the salt off. But that's partly to do with the glorious salt patterns. It's partly to do with the really interesting colour mix that has happened in the background. That was a combination of colours. It's not a single paint. And yeah, pretty darn happy. So if you've enjoyed that, do give me a thumbs up. Comments, questions, always welcome. Lovely always to interact with you below the line. I will, as I said, dive in for a close-up here, and I will leave as many details about the paints we used for this and the infusions we used for this in the description below the video. Thank you so much for your company, and happy crafting all.